Hello, James. So wonderful to have you on today's show. My God, I've got James Yarker from Stan's Calf.
Well, we got Vimal, so that's brilliant.
That is wonderful. Look, I know who you are, and I'm gonna. There's many people out there who may not know of you and Stan's Calf, so I'm gonna ask you to, in my Cilla Black voice, uh, what's your name and what do you do? So if you can just give us a little bit.
So my name's James Yarker, and I am artistic director of Stan's Calf, which sounds fancy, but essentially it's the person whose job it is to come up with ideas for new productions for the theatre company Stan's Calf. We're based in Birmingham. We have been since 1991. We make our all original work up, and we tour around, well, the region and the country and the world.
So, firstly, how have you been coping with lockdown?
I've just been amazingly privileged because I've got a house with a garden and I've got a job, and yeah, I just feel very, very, very lucky. So it's rubbish, but it's not nearly as rubbish as it is for many other people.
And what about for Stan's Calf? Have things come to a standstill in the sense of with this whole lockdown period, or is it a case of no, the show must go on? We need to keep creating, keep moving forward. What's been Stan's Calf take on that?
Well, it's obviously really difficult for theatre companies because the whole thing about theatre is that you're all supposed to be in the same room with each other, you know, the audience and the performers together. So that's made things very difficult, but I suppose our challenge is to think of ways around that. And so we've just been exploring ideas of how we can take our ideas and perform them online, I suppose.
I mean, you guys have always been at the forefront of. I mean, soon as I mean, I know what I'm like. I'm like a little kid. Soon as somebody says Stan's Cap's got a new show, and you're like, oh wow, I need to know what it is because it's a new idea, it's a new concept, and you're. I think a lot of your shows. For me, are in the sense of there's a lot of play. It's almost like there's a new toy in town. Let's play with it. Let's see what's created from it. So, does that kind of change the dynamics for you in the sense of what you might be creating during this lockdown?
Yeah, I think rather than think, oh, what if we like release videos of old shows that we've done on a stage? I think we've been trying to think of what's special about this way of performing. I think being in a theatre is really special. So let's not try and pretend it's that. Let's think about what's different about the relationship between the performers and the audience in this new online situation. So we've tried to think about that and make that a strength rather than a weakness.
So, come on then, hit us with it. What are the shows that you're working on?
Well, we've got three ideas that we've been pushing, which are contrasting and increasingly new, I suppose. So the first thing we've got coming up, which starts next Tuesday, is some old characters that we've been performing for quite some time called the Commentators. So their sort of backstories that they used to do, sort of, they would like John Motson style match of the day kind of commentators in their sheepskin coats. But in our fantasy, they used to do match of the day, but then they got too old and tired for that and stopped getting those gigs and started looking for other work. But the only thing they can do is do sports commentary. So they continue to do sports commentary, but on things that aren't sport. So we started off by commentating on a 24-hour Scalextrics race that we staged. That was back in 2009, and we got a gig commentating on the opening of the Library of Birmingham. We've commentated on the World Gurning Championships, we commentated on School Sports Day, we've commentated on the Lunar and the Moseley festivals. And these are streamed online so that you can sit at home and listen to the sports commentary of stuff that's not sport. And a couple of years ago, we commentated on Birmingham Royal Ballet's The Nutcracker. So that was ballet on the radio. And the new idea is film on the radio. So my colleague Craig and I give you live commentary on people's favourite films. So we are doing think we open up with Dirty Dancing. So it's me and Craig. It's not really audio description, so we can't hear. We've turned the sound off, so we don't really sort of know what's going on. So we're trying to work out what's happening and describe that for the listeners at home. But a bit like the test match special commentary, it sometimes veers off into tangents, and maybe we're focusing on stuff that you're not necessarily supposed to focus on. So later in the series we do Psycho, and I think when you're supposed to be really tense about the relationship between the woman and the motel owner, we're speculating about the paintings on the wall of the motel, etc.
Are these all live recorded, or are they?
We've pre-recorded the first 3 or so, and we're going to put them out as live. And then if people like them, we'll carry on and we'll move into doing them actually live.
Suggestions welcome.
They really are. Listen to the first couple, see if you like them.
I've got a challenge for you. For you, and I think it could work.
Go on.
Bollywood movie.
I would love to do that.
That would be amazing, because you just switch your the volume off, and then you would just commentate on it. So it would, and the film you could do is Sholay. I'll send you the details anyway. We don't need to go into that now anyway. So
we'd love to do that. And then you can watch, and then because it's real time, you can watch along with the film in parallel with the commentary and see how wildly off they are. If it's a film you know well, then obviously you've got the picture of it running in your mind anyway.
Yeah, no, that sounds absolutely wonderful. And you've got 2 other projects that you're currently working on as well.
Yep, so we've got an adaptation of a piece, which in itself was an adaptation. There's a book, a 400-year-old book called The Anatomy of Melancholy, which we had recommended to us. We were festival theatre promoter said to us, Stanscaff, I think you're the only company in the world I could imagine adapting my favourite book for the stage. And it turns out this guy's favourite book is The Anatomy of Melancholy, which I said is 400 years old, but it's also 1,500 pages long. And it's a kind of encyclopedia, self-help manual for people who are melancholy, which is, it's not quite depression, but it sort of covers depression as well. It sounds like it would be a really depressing book, but it's actually really fascinating and hilarious. It's got lots of combination of crazy ideas and crazy remedies to try and cheer you up, but also lots of really sensible advice and stuff that seems really contemporary, even though it's 400 years old. So we did that adaptation a number of years ago now, and it seemed like an interesting topic, quite an apt topic. One of the things the author recommends is to spend time with your friends and walking in the countryside and things like that, which we've not been able to do for months and months. So we've taken the big long book that became quite a long play, and we've changed it into 35 little video episodes, which we've recorded in Zoom, and we've tweaked a little bit so it's not the really boring Zoom quadrant, so you've got a person in each corner of the screen. We've put a little overlay on that so it looks like an old window frame. And the performers perform with each other, even though they're in their different homes. They look at each other, and it's almost like they're in the same space, but you get a thing that you'd never normally have of when they're talking about trying to get a good night's sleep. They're performing in their beds. There's quite a lot of stuff. They seem to think 400 years ago that having constipation made you really miserable. So there's quite a lot of stuff about eating food that's not going to mess up your digestive system, and make sure you keep going to the loo regularly and so on. So you can film bits in the bathroom and all sorts of intimate places that you'd never normally get your actors to be.
That's what I was going to kind of ask you, because again, with Stanscaff, you always kind of expect something kind of slightly different. And as you say, there's that thing of where I assume the actors could just perform straight to screen, but you've kind of done it where it's crossover and different spaces as well.
Yeah, so we've got 35 episodes. So we've been trying to just move them around their homes a little bit. occasionally they get to go outside if it's a long shot. Yeah, just mix stuff up, and it's really beautiful writing. So it's kind of the same time as Shakespeare, roughly, but not as florid language. So it's still got a really interesting tone to it, but it's not difficult to understand. But it's really engaging and I think really beautiful and really moving sometimes. And you get a little insight into how much more mysterious the world was then. But it's also really interesting because even then he's talking about how there's an obsession with if your body is not functioning well, you go to the doctor, but you don't do that if your mind is unwell, and you should do it, which seems like a really contemporary way of thinking, but it was something he was talking about 400 years ago.
From a directing point of view, it's very different, I assume, from being in your theatre space where you've had buildings like the A.E. Harris building that you've had in the past. And I know that you've got a new space now. So is it quite difficult, or is it a different set of challenges for you where you've got the actors on the other side and you go, no, not there, to your left, and they're moving to their right or whatever it is, and you mean, no, that...
There's all sorts of crazy stuff. So when you log on to a Zoom call, where you are on the screen depends on what sequence you've logged in on. So we had to work out how to get people coming in the right sequence to get the format as we wanted it. And then that format would be different from what the actors see. So they might be trying to talk to someone who they think's on their left, but the recording, it looks like they're on their right or below them. So that was quite annoying. You're asking each of the actors to be both the camera operator and the lighting operator and the sound operator and the actor all at the same time. Then they're in lockdown with other members of their household. So you occasionally get the unexpected people passing behind the camera and so on. There's one really beautiful one where one of actors, Rochi, her daughter comes into shot just at a perfect time. It's an accident, but it's so moving and just really wonderful accident.
And you've kept it in. You've kept it in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's just really beautiful. It's quite a lot of religion in it, and there's a whole thing about how God looks after you and looks over you, and her daughter comes in. She's looking after her daughter while there's talk about God looking after us and so on. So it's really touching. So it's a bit like being a film director, but without any of the sort of control. And everyone's got dodgy connections and so on. So you're just trying to say, oh yeah, great take, but your connection dropped out at the vital moment.
Do you take the directing approach of just do it, I don't care?
I'm possibly too laid back. Actually, I'm possibly too.
You are, James. I know that you're very laid back. You're great to work with.
The really nice thing about the Anatomy of Melancholy is that it is itself a cure to melancholy. So the writer says, "Oh, I've written this to cure myself of melancholy." It's there. Just the reading of it, just sort of is a beautiful, relaxing thing. And for us, working on it, performing it together, we love doing it. We recorded on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and we all really looked forward to that 2 hours together, and it was the highlight of our weeks, and it was just really uplifting to do.
So you've got, did you say there's 35 episodes of this?
Yep, they're going to be released. There's one a day from the beginning of July.
And how long are they? About 10 minutes each?
On average, about 3.5 minutes each.
Okay, about 3.5 minutes.
Length of a pot single.
Brilliant, yeah. And any other projects you're doing? I mean, that's quite enough as it is.
Well, both of those are sort of adaptations of things that we've already had going on. So we thought we should try something absolutely from scratch, especially for this online world. So we've got a thing which we've not made yet, but we're still talking about as if we have, called For Quality Purposes. And it'll be brand new, but as you might gather from the title, it's about those little relationships we all have with the people who are looking after us on sort of phone. You call a call centre and the little recorded voice says, we will be recording this for quality purposes. And then you get put through to someone who's trying to fix your problem for you. And you have that little brief sort of relationship where you need them, they're trying to help you, and then your ways part. So we're just exploring that relationship and that little world. And I think we've got five actors lined up for that, all women, and we're going to be making it together. So a lot of it will be what they think of, probably drawing on their own personal experiences, both working in call centres, but also obviously speaking to people who themselves are in call centres.
Is that kind of more, I always talk, I've mentioned earlier on that there's a toy that you always kind of play with, in the sense of, with most of your things, whether you look at, of all the people in the world, Rice, Time Critical, Clock, all those kind of things. With this, do they become more narrative driven then, or is there something where you kind of go, here's something that we're kind of playing with? I know you're still playing with something. It could be playing with words or whatever it is, or a concept. But is there a basis that you kind of?
Yeah, I think there will be. I imagine there'll be a few stories sort of woven together. There'll probably be. I suspect it'll be like that thing where you only hear half of the phone call, and you have to imagine what the person at the other end's saying. And also, I imagine you'll be exploring different emotions around it. So I imagine some of it will be quite playful, and some of it might be quite intense. A sort of a collage or a weaving together of stories is often the way things go.
And that's, again, for online?
Yes, I think for this we've possibly had enough of seeing the inside of other people's living rooms. So I think we'll be probably doing this under black fabric, so it's just the person's face and the screen and nothing around it. So they're sort of voices and faces in the ether, in the darkness.
Wonderful. And we can expect and I've seen that something like that could quite easily move into theatre as well.
I think the thing I'm looking forward to about this is that although you sort of could do it in theatre because you can suspend, the audience suspend their disbelief, etc. I think that the exciting thing about this is that you can do it as being sort of nowhere much more effectively, with this sort of this blackness and just the faces, and a real intimacy, being able to talk really quietly and be heard, which you can't do in the theatre, and to be able to see the real details of a face as you normally can only do in cinema, I suppose. Wonderful,
James. Any other projects, just in case we?
Well, excitingly, we've just had, we're going down to Bideford in Devon this weekend to set up, of all the people in all the world, our Rice installation, ready for when a gallery there comes out of lockdown. So excitingly, we're going to be out in the real world very soon, and it'll be lovely to meet people when we do.
And that's your Rice show that you tend to do, which has been going on for how long now? Is that your longest running show?
It's the longest running one that we do regularly, and we made that for the first time in 2003.
Wow.
And it uses Rice to represent human population statistics, and so we're busy gathering statistics at the moment, and of course never have human population statistics been so much in the news as they are now, and so controversial and open to question and so on. So it's going to be really interesting to explore that again.
That's wonderful, James. Anything else you need to tell us? Or you have a massive, something that people don't realise is you have a massive education platform. Am I right, in terms of where you work with so many schools, which I know you guys don't go on about it, but you're making massive inroads, I think, in terms of what you guys do and what you offer for primary and secondary education.
Yeah, we have real long-term relationships with partner schools to really try and collaborate with head teachers and their team to make a real difference to schools. So rather than coming in and doing a sort of a project and going off, we're always there for them, always there to help out and try and solve their problems in a creative way and help their teachers increase their skills and confidence in using more artistic approaches to teach their students. And of course, schools are under such enormous pressure at the moment. We've just been exploring how we might be able to help them work online. So we've just converted a project we do with the University of Birmingham School. We do a poetry project each year with them called I Have a Poet. And we've just started doing an online version of that, which is so challenging. I feel so sorry for the teachers and the students nowadays. My daughter, I know, is absolutely desperate to get back to school, to see her friends and see her teachers. So anything we can do to try and help that link between the teachers and the students, we'll do what we can.
Brilliant. James, I really appreciate you taking time out and chatting to us.
Wow.
Something I was intrigued by was that you said that as the commentators, you commentated on the gurning championships. I was wondering whether we could see your best gurning face.
Okay. It's better if you haven't got any teeth. It's better.
Trying it.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Studied at the feet of the champions.
It's stanscaf.co.uk, by the way, is it the website?
Yeah, everything's there. Thanks, Vimal.
No problems. I'm just going to log off and stop recording. And so thank you, James.
Lovely to speak to you. Thanks. Take it easy.